Joining us today is the lead sponsor of a bill, the Stop the Sexualization of Children Act, and one of the strongest advocates for children in Congress, Representative Mike Johnson of Louisiana's 4th District. Congressman, welcome back to Better for America.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's a pleasure to be with you. I appreciate your organization so much, and especially how you all highlight these really important issues for the country.
Congressman, this legislation, Stop the Sexualization of Children Act, would prohibit federal, state, and local governments and private organizations from using federal tax dollars to expose children under 10 to sexually explicit material. Now, that sounds very like good common sense to me. Tell us why this bill is necessary and what you are seeing from the left's misguided crusade to immerse our kids in sexual imagery and sexually explicit material.
You know, it's become pervasive now, and everyone can see this even in their local communities, whether it's in school curricula and government-funded programs, and what's now become the trend of drag queen story hours at public libraries. We have the agencies of the federal government now that are using taxpayer dollars to fund this kind of nonsense, to hoist it upon our kids. And the job of government is to protect innocence, to protect the safety and well-being of children, not to expose them to things that will obviously be harmful. And so we have to take action. Congress has a responsibility to ensure that that proper public policy is advanced. I filed this bill in the last Congress, last fall, when all of this first became a problem. And we'll be filing it again in the new Congress because we need to advance it. I'm very hopeful, certainly in the Republican-led House, that we can pass it, and hopefully the Senate will do the same.
So we were quick. AMAC was quick to write a letter of support of this bill during the 117th Congress. Do you feel that your colleagues are taking this threat against our children as seriously as they should?
I think there is a rising level of awareness and concern about this, and certainly the attention that your organization has provided to it and others is raising that level of awareness. We're so grateful that parents are becoming engaged. They're being involved. You know, if there's any positive thing at all that came out of the COVID crisis that we had in the pandemic, it is that because schooling was moved online, more parents suddenly became aware of what is being taught to their kids. They've become aware of this curricula. They're paying more attention to it than they have in years. And we believe that all of these efforts combined will draw the necessary attention for us to be able to affect sound public policy. Now, this legislation, a really key and important feature of it, as you know, is that it empowers parents to take action. It gives a private right of action for parents if their children under 10 are exposed to this sexually explicit material, whether by any federal agency, local, state, or federal, any government agency, then they can sue to have that removed and stopped. And that's a really important component of this. It's not just a messaging bill. It's not just symbolism. We're trying to empower parents to take action and make change. And I think that can be a very effective tool in the culture that, as we're seeing it go awry as we are.
What obstacles do you think might this bill face in the 118th Congress, and when do you expect that it will be reintroduced?
Well, we have there's an agenda and an ideology that is being advanced by the left in this country. We all see it on vivid display, and some of that finds its way into the Congress. So we have colleagues who are on the other side of this issue from us. As amazing as it is to think that this is common sense legislation. Anyone who thinks that young children should be exposed to burlesque shows and taught to question their gender and all of these other things is on a completely different page. They're operating from a different worldview. So we have the very real obstacle of that political force pushing back against this common sense and these safety measures. But then also, this is important too, Rebecca, you know, the House Republican majority has just constituted a new select committee, and it's the select subcommittee on the weaponization of federal government. I'll be serving on that. Jim Jordan will be chairing it. And our task there is to go and look for these federal agencies that are also providing hurdles. It is a matter beyond dispute now that some of the agencies that are created and designed to serve and protect the American people have been turned against them. Even the Department of Justice itself. As an example, when parents began to rise up last summer and last fall in opposition to some of this radical curricula and things that were being pushed in the school, the mask mandates and all the rest, the FBI used counterterrorism measures and resources to oppose the parents. They created a domestic terrorism threat tag, and they identified parents who merely showed up as concerned citizens to voice their opposition to curricula at school boards. This has got to stop. We have to empower parents, not censor and silence them. And we have forces even within the federal government that are working on the other side of this. So serious challenges, but I do believe that the voice of the people and common sense is ultimately going to prevail.
Now, a Democrat congresswoman recently quoted scripture on the House floor claiming that Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5 somehow supports abortion while conveniently ignoring the Bible's specific mention of the sanctity of life beginning in the womb. Take a listen to this clip.
When I read the scripture, I turn to passages and I'm guided by passages like Jeremiah 1 verses 5, which states, I knew you before I formed you and I placed you in your mother's womb. It doesn't say the government's womb or the speaker's womb. It says the mother's womb. I believe life is precious, but I reject the idea that if I embrace the sanctity of life, I also must be forced to invite the federal government in to regulate it.
Congressman, what is your response to Congresswoman Shelton?
I heard my colleague when she said that on the floor, and I was stunned, as were other members, to quote scripture out of context in some twisted way to support abortion rights. Rebecca, you have to remember the bill that we were debating in that moment, there was a reference to it there on the C-SPAN screen, but that was the Born Alive Infant Protection Act. That bill quite literally says that if an abortion is failed, the attempt to abort a child fails, and the child is born alive, it merely says that that infant lying on the table is entitled to the same level of medical care as any other live born infant. No Democrat, except 2 or 3, voted in favor of our legislation. They voted against providing care to a living child on the table. It's barbarism. It puts us on a level beyond where China, North Korea, and these other barbaric communist nations are, who have no regard for the sanctity of human life at all. One of the central premises, and you and I have discussed this before, about what makes America unique and special and exceptional, is that we acknowledge in our nation's birth certificate the self-evident truth that all of us are made by God. It says we are endowed by Him, our Creator, with our inalienable rights, and the first listed, obviously, is the right to life. The founders of this country understood that because we are made in God's image, every single one of us has inestimable dignity and value, and your value is not related in any way to the color of your skin, what zip code you live in, where you went to school. Your value is inherent because it is given to you by your Creator. We're the only nation in the world that was founded upon that creed, recognizing the sanctity of every single human life. And for members of Congress to be standing on the floor of the United States Congress in 2023 and arguing the opposite is shocking, it's dangerous, and it is a sign of the times in which we live. We have to oppose that ideology because it's barbarism. There's no other way to say it.
I mean, this is really chilling, the way that we saw Gavin Newsom do the same thing with a Bible verse on his billboards promoting abortion as well. So this, I pray that the American people see through that. Congressman, you're serving as a Republican-ranking member of the new Judiciary Committee, and that is chaired by Jim Jordan, as you just mentioned. And I'm sure that you know that Americans are watching this very closely, looking for some accountability after years of chaos and corruption. Can you give us some insight into what you expect will happen in the coming months?
Yes, we had some planning meetings just yesterday, less than 24 hours ago, for the House Judiciary Committee, and our committee has broad jurisdiction over all sorts of, not only the administration of justice, but also the Department of Justice itself, the FBI. We have oversight or responsibility over the Department of Homeland Security and what they've done at the border and all these other things. I'll be chairing the Constitution Subcommittee there, which is entitled The Constitution and Limited Government. And we have a lot of inquiries to make on behalf of the American people. We have a number of hearings lined up where we'll be dragging in the heads of all these agencies and asking them very important, long overdue questions that the Democrats would never ask when they were in the majority up until just January. This is long overdue. We have to restore the people's trust in our institutions, Rebecca, because the American people are losing their faith in the system of justice itself. And that is the most serious threat to the stability of our republic, to the survival of our republic. Because if you're going to have a government of, by, and for the people, as Lincoln articulated in the Gettysburg Address, you have to ensure the stability and the trust in the institutions that maintain that government. And we're losing that right now. And that's why this work is so important. And, of course, the work also of the Select Committee on the Weaponization of Government. we're going to bring accountability, and we're going to bring answers to the American people. We're going to lay those facts out for review for the people, and we will follow that truth where it leads. We've got to take action. We've got to do three things, essentially: understand how this has happened, ensure that it stops, and make sure it never happens again in the future. And that's very, very important work ahead of us.
Congressman, thank you so much. You really are a man of courage. We appreciate all of the great work that you're doing. And as the representative of Louisiana's 4th District, you represent over 5,000 AMAC members in your district alone. We sincerely appreciate your time, and we're looking forward to new developments as it relates to both protecting our children with your great bill and the integrity of our country with an active Judiciary Committee. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can listen to more just like it. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, or by downloading the AMAC app. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Until next time, I'm Rebecca Weber. This is your podcast, Better for America. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful evening.